All right. Hey guys.
Hey. Hi.
Thanks for joining us for this first hangout. So the focus of tonight is to talk a little bit about academics, research or other opportunities that we have on campus here. And so we can talk a little bit about our experiences. There are three of us. So I'm Twandat. I'm a sophomore, global health and psychology co-major. And I'm involved with some research in global health and emergency medicine, studying road traffic injuries in Tanzania, and I'm also pre-med. So if you have some questions about some science, feel free to ask. But I've also had the chance to take some other cool classes, like I've been in a cultural anthropology class and also taken a couple poetry classes. So, um, if you're interested in any of that, let us know. And so joining us, we have Megan and Katie. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Megan. I'm a senior. I'm originally from San Diego, California. I came into Duke pre-vet, but I ended up changing my mind once I got here. I kind of knew that I might switch around, and luckily Duke was the perfect place to kind of try out a bunch of different stuff. I'm now graduating with a psychology major, a minor in visual and media studies, and a certificate in policy journalism and media studies. So I kind of crafted my own communications and business degree, kind of focusing on consumer psych, business psych, things like that. And I'm hoping to go into marketing and communications after I graduate. I do some work on campus with Duke Student Broadcasting, which is like we film news and we cover sports and entertainment and things like that. And I'm also involved in her campus media, which is an outlet on campus that I do some editing and writing for them, sort of like female focused, but we write about all sorts of stuff. And I also work at the Office of Undergraduate Education, and I worked at the Special Events Office and the Writing Studios. I've done a lot of work study. I was in Focus Program, and I studied abroad, so I can answer lots of questions kind of if you're thinking of going into the humanities. I've taken a bunch of different classes when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I've like traveled and stuff like that. So go ahead and ask me those questions if I don't know so much about the science. They know a little bit more about the science, but I can answer some other stuff.
Right
All
on.
right. Hi, guys. I'm Katie. I'm a freshman currently, so hey, close to high school, or closer than them, I guess. But I'm a pre-med student, currently undecided as to what my major will be. I'm leaning between bio or chem. I was thinking about neuroscience for a while. I've heard this a lot, but I've got some time to make a decision. Um, Currently, I work in a developmental biology lab. We work with C. elegans, which are super cool nematodes. And I am involved in a lot of service projects and service organizations on campus. Some of my favorite ones are like FEMS, which stands for Females Excelling More in Math, Science, and Engineering. Yeah, and I do some tutoring with high school students, and yeah, so I was also in Focus. Actually, we were just talking about this before the chat.
Yeah, we did the same focus, sort
Yeah,
of.
we kind of just did the same Focus, so it was a really fun Focus.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any questions about first year life, I'm experiencing that right now. So yeah.
Perfect. So that's us. We're pretty much at your disposal for any questions you have. And so if you do have a question, feel free to write it in the Q&A app. It should be on your screen to the left.
With a little green, or no, blue
And so you
chat.
just kind of what?
Wait, yeah, it's like turquoise,
Turquoise, blue
teal
box.
blue kind of color. Yeah.
So if you have any specific questions, that's where you can post them, and then we'll get right to it.
Yeah.
So the first question: what is your favorite class that you've taken at Duke so far? Um, Either of you guys want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here all 4 years, so I can take a little stab. at it. I really, really liked abnormal psychology with Zach Rosenthal. We learned about like all sorts of different psychological disorders, and he's just really cool. He works in virtual reality to help people get over drug addictions. So that was a really awesome class because we learned about like OCD, everything from OCD to like eating disorders to like psychopathy and stuff like that. So it was a really, really cool class. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I've taken some really awesome film classes at Duke. I took Existentialist Cinema, and we watched 2001: A Space Odyssey and Memento and stuff like that. So two very different classes, but there's some really cool professors on campus, and they're just so smart. Like I think my film professor he teaches German, but he just taught that class for fun, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I think I can comment on this one too. I know I haven't taken as many classes, but definitely have taken some cool classes so far. We mentioned focus before, and I guess we kind of just assumed that you guys knew what focus was, but focus is basically a program for first-year students, and it's kind of just this community that you're in, and you focus on a specific topic that you're learning about. And so my focus was called Cognitive Neuroscience and Law. And so we had a mixture of some law and ethics courses, and we had some neuroscience courses, and we had neurolinguistics courses. And so probably one of my favorite classes I've taken so far was in that focus. And the exact name, I'm pretty sure it was called When the Head's in Trouble, Language Lesions and Loss. It was taught by, it was co-taught by a neuroscientist and a radiologist oncologist, and they both work at Duke Med. And they were just super cool. I talked about a lot of different case studies. We learned a lot about just neurolinguistics, and they would bring in a lot of guest lecturers from Duke Med, and we would learn a lot about just like different experiences that they've had at Duke Med. And it was really interesting because it was so closely related to what we were learning about, but it was like actually their patients, you know. So I really enjoyed that class, and it was like, you know, it was like one of the first classes I've ever taken here, and so it's very close to my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a good thing to keep in mind is that, you know, sometimes, you know, pre-vet or I came in as a bio major, but, you know, you kind of get the chance, I think, at Duke to explore different disciplines. And so, like me being a pre-med, and it's kind of science heavy, but then, you know, on the other hand, I get to take a poetry class, you know, and that's a different form of learning, and I value that a lot. What was our favorite classes?
There's so many good questions.
I think
We have lots of questions.
Yeah, so many questions.
Wow.
So let's see. How easy is it to get into research with a professor? I think this one is one that I can speak to. One sec. So the professors are very open to, you know, having students reach out to them and meet. And I think what's cool about that is that, especially since we have the Flunch program, stands for faculty lunch, and so you can set up any staff on campus and just talk to them. And so that's kind of how you introduce yourself. And then from there you can start talking about, oh, what are your research interests? What do you want to do? And then, you know, you can talk to them about their research and see if your interests line up. And for me, I got the chance, since I worked in the emergency department, to interact with a lot of doctors there. And actually, one doctor who does research with global health, I met with her. I just thought that I was going to get an idea of what a career in global health and emergency medicine was like. But then, you know, we got talking, and I asked her, you know, what can I do now to prepare? And she said it's a good idea to get, 1, a mentor, and 2, to start doing some research. And so I just asked her, so what's the, do you have any idea like what opportunities are out there? And she said, I'm doing research with road traffic injuries in Tanzania, and I'd be happy to, you know, work with you a little bit on that. And so like that's as easy as it gets, really.
Yeah,
I didn't
people are
even.
so nice. Like I think people are scared to reach out to professors sometimes because they think like, oh, it's Duke, the professors are busy doing their own stuff. But I mean, like you just said with that example, like if you just ask them, they're not going to be. The worst thing that they say is like, oh, I actually don't have any space right now, but I can put you in touch with this person who is doing something similar, who will also really like it. Like I did ecology when I first got here, and I wasn't even really into ecology, but I just went on. I used Duke List actually, and sometimes they'll be looking for research assistants on Duke List also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually found my current, because I'm currently working in a lab as a work study, but I'll be doing research with them over the summer. I found it off of Duke List, which is basically kind of similar to a Craigslist, but a lot less sketchy because you know that
Yeah.
everyone's from Duke, and they post available positions, and like it's seriously like Craigslist. They'll post anything that's available, and you can find a job through work study or even non-work study things. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just putting yourself out there and asking. I know a lot of people. I mean, it's hard to think that, oh, I might get rejected. Like, what if they say no? But I mean, the only way you'll know is to ask, and they'll definitely like be understanding. Like if there's not a position open, then they'll let you know quickly, and they'll say, but I mean, maybe this other person has a position, or just keep trying, and maybe next semester there will be a position open. So all you really have to do is just ask and go out of your way and kind of, yeah, be open.
So the next question, um, one sec if we can get it to load.
I think it's what specifically about Duke made you choose it over other schools. That one has the most votes,
Yeah,
if I can see that correctly.
right on. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I can tell you my personal little story. I was between UCLA and Duke when I was choosing. And because I'm from California and all my friends are saying California, I'm sure there's a lot of Californians watching right now because Duke likes to accept people from there. And for me, it was basically I wanted to graduate in 4 years, and I wanted smaller classes, and I wanted to be able to like take a bunch of different classes and switch around if I had to, which I ended up changing my major, so it was a good thing that I did it. And it totally exceeded my expectations as far as that goes, like graduating in 4 years with a major, minor, and certificate, and I switched my major twice. So it's really possible. And like job prospects are looking great, so that was another thing that was awesome about Duke. And the financial aid for me was an issue at first too, but because UCLA was initially giving me more than Duke was, but we actually talked to the Duke financial aid office about it, and they ended up kind of raising it. So if that's something that's a problem, I know for people looking at public versus private, Duke's pretty understanding about that.
Right on. So next question, how difficult is the transition from a traditional high school classroom to Duke's academics? And did you do anything specific to prepare? Katie, I guess you're pretty close to that. If you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously whenever you're switching from high school to college, there will be a transition period, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so different. And I am actually from Cary, North Carolina, so just kind of down the road about like 30, 40 minutes, which at first made me think that it was going to be super easy, and I would just be like, oh, well, I mean, it's the exact same place, but at first it is very different, and you'll notice that you have to work very hard in college, but I mean, it's a really good kind of difficulty. I never really realized that like how much like challenge would kind of improve. I would improve with the challenge, I guess.
Yeah, you
So,
rise to it.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not like so overbearing, like oh my gosh, like I'm so overwhelmed kind of thing. They will ease you in at first, and then especially I think with the focus program helped as well. Like they kind of teach you like techniques to help you out with any of your readings or keeping up with your work. But at first you're just like, whoa, it's so different. But here at Duke, I really was able to like see the challenge and meet the challenge and then improve because of that challenge. Like
everyone's in it together too. That was the thing that I found. It was like it's not like you're the only one who gets there and you're shocked by how hard it is. I mean, Duke's definitely known for being hard, but also too, like grad schools and employers after Duke know how hard Duke is. So even though it sucks like a little bit while you're here, it really pays off because people know how hard you worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's you definitely like catch yourself, like you stop and think like, oh my gosh, why are we up so late doing all this work? But then you notice like, hey, this library is not empty. Like you're among friends. There are plenty of people doing just as much work and working like just as hard.
And it's everybody. I was in the library till 5 a.m. last night, fun fact for everyone. And Marshall Plumley came into the library with his backpack at 4:30 in the morning after getting back from the Elite Eight game. So it's everyone. It's literally everybody, including the basketball players.
Yeah. But just the transition itself, I mean, like there are I guess tools to use to make sure that you're keeping up with everything. I mean, the Academic Advising Center and academic advising, the resources there, you could definitely go talk to them, and if you're having trouble with any of that kind of stuff, they can help you kind of like make a game plan as to what you really need to accomplish and what you need to do in order to like keep up with your work and make that transition, because at first it is a little bit shocking. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work, and that's not a lot of time to do that work. But I mean, that's what you're here to do. You're here to work hard, and everyone is in the exact same boat, and we're all just kind of like powering through it together. So it's really fun sometimes. You're up like, well, fun. You're up late at night, and you're just like,
I think that it's like, you know,
for a coffee run, like, but I mean, you're all doing it together.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and so I think that leads in pretty well to this next question from Anya, and basically, you know, just like how collaborative are students in the classes at Duke, and so I can speak to that a little bit. I think that sometimes people come in and they get a little bit intimidated and think that maybe environment, and I've found, you know, that's definitely not the case. Just again, people will be there to study with you until like the wee hours of the morning. My roommate just left the room, but if he were here, he'd tell you. The other day, he was up. I think he was working on a project with his group, and they were up until 3, 4 in the morning, and they're just working together. And I think that you can always find someone who's working on the same problems as you, and they're definitely.
I don't really like to study alone. That was something I was nervous about. I mean, you can study alone, obviously, but like you're saying, it's like, I don't know. I was worried it'd be competitive because it was such a top school, and that it'd be people talked about how it was based on a curve. I know that was a worry when I came in. I don't know about you guys. I was like, oh, it's on a curve. I'd heard stories at other schools about people like sabotaging other students, and I've never heard a story like that since I've been here at Duke.
Yeah.
Have you guys? I've never heard of anything like that.
That's absurd. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine like feeling like that because, last semester, so that was my first semester, freshman year. I was in Orgo 1, and I heard about the curve, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. Like, some of us are actually gonna fail, and some of us are actually gonna get A's. It all just depends on who falls within what boundaries. So yeah, I was super nervous to like work with other people. I was like, no, I gotta be better than these people. Like, I'm beating these people. Like, that's the plan. But I mean, honestly, if you work together, it's so much easier, and you guys will do better in the classes themselves. Because I remember our professor even telling us if we get a higher average than her expectation, then she will allow there to be the A's to there to be more A's, so the cutoff to be adjusted based on our average. So I mean, they want you to succeed, and they don't like it's not set up in a way where it's like
Yeah.
wrote like, oh my gosh, like let's all just compete to the death kind of thing.
I've pretty much just competed against myself since I got here. That's how Duke students are. Everyone's just trying to like do their best because they know that they can do well. I don't think it's so much competing with other people.
And also in that class, I've never like, if I asked a question, I would never get like a brush off like refusal of an answer, like, oh, go figure it out, like you'll get it. Like, no, people will stop and they'll help you out because I mean, if they asked you, they would expect you to do the same thing. So,
yeah,
like it's just one of those things, you know.
Maybe it's good to move on to our next question. If we can pull it up. So, how did you go about choosing your first year courses? Was it mainly fulfilling requirements?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get this on the screen.
I can start while you're
Yeah.
putting it up there. So like I said, I came in. I don't think everyone was here for this, but I came in to do pre-veterinary, which is kind of like the same track as pre-med, but it's actually a little bit more strict, like about the courses you have to take. But I still was able to do the focus program, which I thought would be really fun, and I was taking an Islam and Orthodoxy class and a neuroscience and human language class in the same program. So those were very, very different classes. And then I had to take math. I think I took Calc 31. I think it's got a new name now since changed. And I pretty much, so basically to answer your question, I had my like major in mind, which was pre-vet, and so I took Calc and something else. And then I can't remember now, philosophy or something, Spanish. I was taking my language requirement. That's what it was. Sorry, I'm a senior for people who aren't sure. So I'm forgetting already what I did freshman year. But I took Spanish, which you have to take 3 languages or one higher level one when you get here, and then math. But then, like I said, I was able to take 2 other fun classes that had nothing to do with my major, nothing to do with requirements. And the cool thing about Duke is everybody gets nervous that you have to finish all these requirements. Like, I need an arts and language, or I need like a natural science. And I found that by taking just a bunch of different classes that sound interesting, you usually just fill those. So I've never really had to worry. Once you decide your major, you obviously have to make sure that you're doing what you do. But for first year, you can really take classes that you just like. At least that's what I found.
Yeah. And so, looks like Coco Chen asked, can you course registration process? And, Carrie, you asked, can you briefly describe pre-med advising at Duke? And I think kind of like these things sort of go hand in hand. And with advising, like some of our advisors, I would just meet with my advisor whenever I was worried about, am I going to fulfill these requirements? Am I going to graduate on time? And the good thing is that we have a long-range plan that you actually have to complete your sophomore year. And so I just did that. And basically what that is you kind of plan out how the rest of your college career is going to look like. Put them into semesters, and so you kind of have this rough idea of what you're going to be doing, and so it's not the case where you're a senior and you're overwhelmed and you need to take 5 more classes that you don't have space for. I think Duke does a really good job at making sure that you graduate on time and that you have everything taken care of, while at the same time we still get the chance to again take classes outside of the major, chance to do a focus program, which is, I think, it's 2 classes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 extra classes, and then we still get to take some electives that'll fit into different requirements. But definitely talking to your advisor once you get here is a great start. And maybe if you want to knock out a couple requirements, it'd be good to do.
I definitely remember, like, at the beginning of freshman year, also when I was, like, just about to come in, thinking about what classes to take. It's also very different, I feel like, choosing classes when you're not on campus and you're not here, like, in with all the other students, you're kind of like choosing at home when you're all by yourself, kind of, and you're like, I don't know what they want me to do. I'm just choosing my classes. But I would look at the graduation requirements or major requirements or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, like they want me to do so many things. I only have like blank credits. But I mean, a lot of things are like fulfill more than one thing, because you have your like areas of learning, no, areas of knowledge, and then the what are those methods of learning kind of things?
Yeah.
And you have to fulfill some. I mean,
Yeah, like you'll take like I took neuroscience and human language, for example. That covered, I think, like a civilization and like a science and or natural science, and it just like they'll cover a bunch of different things. Like
yeah, like they
went towards a Russian minor.
things.
You never know.
Yeah. They'll cover more than one things, and they'll be cross-listed places. Like it really, you'll cover a lot more ground than you think in the amount of classes that you take. So I remember like freaking out, like, you know what, I'm just not going to graduate on time. It'll be fine. But it'll all work out, and a lot of freshmen just end up taking classes that are interesting to them while meeting Writing 101 and just kind of starting out language requirements, that kind of stuff. But I mean, whatever sounds interesting would probably be good.
Yeah, I would really urge that freshman year. I'm so happy I did it. Like I remember I thought I would love philosophy, and I took it, and I didn't love it at all. And that was like very good for me to know. So you just never know. Or you might really like something. Like I really liked the human language part of that class, so I took linguistics the next semester, and it was awesome. So don't freak out too much about what you need to do for your first semester.
I also see a question from Ellie that says, do freshmen usually get their first choice while registering for courses? It really depends. I would say that I personally have gotten all of my first choices. Like I've never really had to panic and switch around my classes. But to keep in mind, freshmen do have the last choice. We're kind of bottom of the ladder when it comes to picking, like order picking classes. And also on top of that, you have registration windows. So if you're a freshman with third window, I don't know. Sometimes you might get kind of lucky, but for me personally, I've gotten all of my classes that I've wanted. With that in mind, I had focus first semester, and then second semester, I wanted to get into a couple of larger lecture courses. And right now, I'm in Bio 202, and that was actually kind of hard to get into as a freshman, but I did manage to get into it. So it's definitely doable. I had first window, but it's just a little bit harder just because, like, just based on the progression, you know. But you'll have your chance eventually. Like, you'll be, like, a senior and a junior, and
you
you'll...
get first pick.
Yeah, you'll be like, yeah, get into that class, like, no prob. So
everyone has like the same problem too. You know, you're all in the same boat. It's not like there's going to be this elite group of freshmen that's like way ahead of everybody else or anything. Yeah.
I mean, once you're a freshman, like all the freshmen kind of like, yep, hopefully get into this class. Maybe a sophomore took it, maybe not. I don't know, but for me personally, I think I've been pretty lucky. I've gotten into all the classes that I've wanted, so it's definitely possible to get into all the classes, no problem. So.
So I think the next question looks like it's got some.
Oh, I can answer this one. This is the internship one.
Yeah. So do companies actively recruit students for internship? How easy is it to get an internship?
Okay, so there's so many resources. So I'm a senior, so I've done 2 internships. I didn't do one after my freshman year, but I did one after my sophomore and my junior year. And so, like, the way that it works on campus is that there's so many different resources. So you can go to your career advisor, you can go to your major career advisor, and they'll help you. So, like, I'm in the media and arts technically, so I go to the media and arts advisor. And they send out emails like every other day with internships. I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys if you're like bio major or whatever. They'll send out like fellowships or internships. There's also a career fair on campus. It's not quite as not quite as many freshmen or like underclassmen go to it, but there's definitely plenty of resources. And to answer your question, companies really, really like Duke, and they know that Duke students are really smart and can, even if you're not necessarily majoring directly in what it is, like I'm a psychology major, and I interned after my sophomore year at iHeartMedia, which does like iHeartRadio and all the radio stations. And then last year I actually interned at Animal Planet in Los Angeles under Discovery Communications. And I'm a psychology major. I'm not doing anything technically in television. I'm not a TV major or anything like that because we don't have that here. But companies know that Duke students are smart and that they can learn things and that we get like a really broad background, but because we're doing humanities and liberal arts. So that was that to answer your question. They don't so much necessarily actively come to Duke except for a couple career fairs. Or like for specific majors, the bio majors union might like bring a company to Duke, or like engineering might bring Google here or something like that. But I know plenty of students who interned at Facebook, Google. I know someone who interned at Facebook after her freshman year. So it's definitely a thing, and it's pretty easy. It's easier, I think, than you think.
Yeah. So I think next question. If I can pull it up again. If we could talk about if it's possible to double major in Trinity College and Pratt, and then we can talk a little bit more about Pratt too, and how engineering goes. So, Katie, if you want to.
Yeah. So all three of us are actually not in Pratt, but I do have a lot of friends that are in Pratt.
Yes.
I took multi my last semester. And so that's basically multivariable calculus. That's Math 212, and a lot of Pratt kids need to take it freshman year. So I ended up meeting a lot of Pratt kids. Actually, a lot of people thought I was in Pratt because I took multi and orgo, and I think that's another common class for biomedical engineers. But basically, the way I understand Pratt is like it's a very structured system. So they will tell you when you need to take your math, your biology, and your physics, and like it's a very like step by step. If you follow the steps, you'll get through Pratt. It definitely is possible to double major in Pratt. It's possible to go abroad. It's possible to do focus. I know people pursuing all those things that are in Pratt. There was one girl who was in Pratt in my focus, and I know people who are planning on going abroad and that are in Pratt right now. But you have to do a lot of planning with it. So you have to talk to an advisor like early on and like know that, oh, I want to do this semester. How will I make it possible to do that? Because focus, you do take 2 seminars, and so that might displace some of your step-by-step kind of things that you do as a Pratt student. So maybe you won't follow the exact steps that they tell you to do, but it's definitely possible. And just, some people find it, like, if they find it worth it, they'll make time for it, you know? So if they really, really want to go to abroad, like, that's definitely something that's possible, like, as long as you take the time to plan ahead and that kind of stuff.
For my friends who are graduating with Pratt degrees in Pratt, so there's like electrochemical engineering, ECE, there's BME. I have a lot of friends who are biomedical engineering, and they've been able to do a bunch of different stuff. So it's definitely a little more difficult to study abroad. Like Katie said, you really, really have to prep for it. I would know kind of from the get-go what you're going to do. It's more structured, but only really in the first year, and then you kind of get some more flexibility. So I have friends that have taken art history classes who are in Pratt. They still make you take some sort of arts class, I'm pretty sure. So, but it's definitely more structured than Trinity. But Pratt students actually study abroad at 3 times the national average.
At Duke compared to the national average. Yeah. So we definitely make it work.
Yeah. So Megan, do you want to touch a little bit on on your study abroad experience? I mean, Shirley asked
Sure.
about that. So.
Oh yeah, I see that. Shirley, you asked. Oh, you just said that, didn't you? But basically, I went to Barcelona. A lot of people go abroad. Some people go abroad actually in the summer. I know some people who do like 6-week programs in like Paris and London and things like that. But I went abroad the fall of my junior year, and I went to Barcelona. I did not do a Duke In program, but they have a Duke In program in Barcelona. A lot of people go to Spain. There's a Duke in Madrid. I have friends who are pre-med and Pratt who went to Australia. I have friends who went to Copenhagen. Istanbul is a really popular program. And I know some people can also like make their own program. So I know a girl who did Duke in Prague, and she just proposed it. So if you really want to go to like Madagascar or something, which I think we might even have, you can kind of propose that. But basically, I had an awesome time. I really recommend that you have it in the back of your head that you want to go abroad junior year if that's something that you're interested in, because it's one of my favorite semesters. It was so much fun. I went with other Duke students, but you don't have to, and I got to kind of get some language requirements out of the way when I was there, and I got to do volunteering with students in Barcelona who were like 14, 15 years old. So abroad is huge at Duke. A lot of people go, but a lot of people also stay, so don't stress about it. It's not like a thing that everyone does. Like Tandwa, I know is staying, but a lot of people do. So.
Yeah, and I think that if you want to go abroad, like if you want to go see different countries, like studying abroad isn't the only way to do it. So I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard we have Duke Engage, and so Duke will fund a service learning project abroad, or alternatively, there's something called the Student Researcher Training Program, called the SRT program, and that'll also send you abroad to do a research project. And so there are different ways to get involved around the globe. And so it's not just, you don't have to sacrifice one of your semesters here to go abroad. You could also do it over the summer with some of the other programs we have.
And then to be like more candid, not just talking about academics, but study abroad's like really, really fun. Duke is hard, and there's like the work hard, play hard atmosphere at Duke that I'm sure you guys have heard about. But study abroad's kind of like a nice, relaxing break from that. And I took classes pass-fail, so it didn't go. There's opportunities to do programs that are not Duke programs, which I didn't do, and my classes were pass-fail, and it didn't count towards my GPA, but it was like a nice, awesome break. I got to travel and have a good time. So if you're like thinking that other schools, for whatever reason, like Duke study abroad is going to be harder or something like that, you definitely still get the most out of the experience.
Yeah. So I think the next question that'd be nice to touch on is Thomas Vincent asked, do you find that the campus is divided between STEM classes and liberal arts classes, or if the school is fairly unified?
Good question.
I guess I can touch on that a little bit.
You're kind of in both, right? So
Huh?
you're a little bit in both worlds, like
Yeah.
in like the liberal arts and STEM, right?
Yeah. So I think the thing about that is, with all of the requirements, I don't know if you guys have looked at them, but and a lot. And so you're going to have your foreign language requirements. You're going to have your civilizations requirements. You're going to have natural sciences. And so the thing with that is that you're going to have people who are in classes because they need to fulfill these requirements, and you'll find a liberal arts major or a liberal arts student in a science class, or you'll find a math major in a liberal arts class, and I'd like, especially for me in the field of global health, it's very interdisciplinary, and so it's bringing a lot of people together. People who major in econ, people who major in whatever else. But I think Duke does a good job at making sure that you're in touch with people outside of your field of study, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry if you were on a point. It's like laggy, so I never know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I guess I was just going to say that it starts, from freshman year. I'm sure you guys know that East Campus is exclusively freshmen, and so I think that sense of unity, that sense of cohesiveness, begins all living together. You guys are all going through mostly the same things, and so I'd say that the school is relatively unified, and you'll find that STEM classes and liberal arts classes aren't mutually exclusive.
I think definitely there's like, the Pratt kids that get really, really close, and that's only natural because they're working really hard on these problem sets all night and stuff like that. But I mean, I know I have good friends who are graduating neuroscience and theater double majors, and she directed the spring musical, and she's going to UVA medical school next year. So, I mean, she's taken classes in totally different majors. My really good friend who's pre-med is in a novel class with me, and we're reading books once a week. So it's like, I would say that as much as it's people, they study with people who are there in classes with, you're always going to be seeing. It's not like you don't see your Pratt friends if you're in liberal arts or anything like that. That's just not. I've never seen that.
I mean, there's no like one thing at Duke that is so dividing to the point where you're not gonna see like if you made a friend in Pratt and you're not in Pratt, I mean, you're not gonna be like, oh well, they're in Pratt, we're not gonna see each other anymore. I mean, we're all like kind of have our own difficulties, and we all kind of sometimes we'll bond over certain difficulties, and sometimes we'll like find other things that we'll have in common. But I mean, there are a lot of different things that you guys can overlap with. So like your extracurricular organizations, or like places that you guys volunteer at, things that you do just like outside of class.
Greek life clubs.
Yeah, exactly.
SLGs.
I know a lot of people. Like one of my closest friends who's in Pratt, he's really involved at the Catholic Center, and so he has a lot of friends that are not Pratt because of that. And so, like if you find like different like groups to be a part of, different circles, like maybe you volunteer with this one organization, maybe you're in this class with this other person, like it's just, there's nothing that's like completely like, oh well, they're a Pratt kid or they're a STEM kid or they're a whatever kid, like you're all kind of like you're Duke students really. So
yeah. And I think the next question.
Should we answer the AP credits one?
Yeah, we can talk about AP.
A lot of people want to know about that.
I had AP. I remember that AP credits.
So, I mean, I guess basically to sum up that question, I think it's a pretty simple question just to kind of like give a direct answer about is so you can use two of your AP credits for the graduation required credits, and then the rest of your AP credits, well, basically you can only use two of them as actual credits, like course credits for graduation. But and then any of your AP credits you can use as placement. So if you got like a 5 on your AP Calc test, then you can place into like Math 212, which is what I did. Or if you got a 5 on your Chem, you can bypass Chem 101 and go into either Chem 110 or Chem 201, which is Orgo 1. So you can use those as placement. And then for actual credit use, you use them for the 34 credits that you need to graduate. Now you only need 32.
And I think something important to remember about that too is that sometimes you don't want to miss that course. Like I know some people are worried like that they're not fully prepared to go straight into the next course, and I think that's totally fine. Like not everybody uses AP courses or anything like that, and there is only 2 of them, so I know compared to other schools that's a lot less, but I think Duke does it because they want you to take like all the classes from beginning to end, because that's the best way to learn the material, if that makes sense.
And also, but also this doesn't apply to Pratt, because for Pratt you can use, oh wait, does this apply to Pratt? Pratt is a different.
Do they not allow any?
Yeah.
Pratt, I remember seeing something different about Pratt.
Yeah. Well, you can figure that out, but I just
figure it out.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Like on a personal experience for me using AP credits, I took AP Calc when I was in high school, and I'm pre-med, and they're some math requirements. I think you need 2 semesters of math, and I got credit for those 2 classes. I mean, like, I don't like math at all, so like getting placed out of that, and that was kind of a happy surprise for me because I didn't worry about that until I got here and then saw that you could use AP credits, and so maybe if it's a subject that it's not the one that you want to spend your time on here, then you can use your credit for that, or just place. I think a lot of kids also use it to place into certain foreign languages, and so there are options for AP credit, and it depends on you and what you want to, what kind of courses you want to take here. So.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't apply to Pratt.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Pratt. But it's for a good reason, like I said, I swear.
Yeah.
You got to take all the classes.
You can use as many as you want towards Pratt. Yeah.
Most people don't.
Yeah. All right.
So next question, from KCK. As a pre-med, how much time do you have to do other things than studying? I mean, obviously, it all kind of depends on how you structure your classes. So I know some of my friends who decided they wanted to take 3 science lab classes in 1 semester. So,
yeah,
that's too
if
much.
people say it's a bad idea, then it's a bad idea,
Yeah. So like, if you do that, it could be a little bit much. But for me, I'm in 2 lab classes this semester, and it's manageable. And I mean, even early in the semester, I spent was like 5 weeks in Caeville tenting out for the UNC game, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
But I think the fact that I have the time to wait out in the cold in a tent for that long, and still do okay in the classes, and still take care of my academics. I think that speaks a little bit to balance.
I mean, having been here for 4 years and having been with people who've gone through all of pre-med, obviously, like, they have some nights where they just can't go out. Like, they have an exam the next day, or they have to study. And I know this isn't just about going out. I'm sure you're talking about, like, clubs and maybe even club sports, or like going to the basketball games or something. But the cool thing about Duke is that people, like, I remember when I came for Blue Devil Days, I went to a party on Central Campus, and it was like really fun. I was kind of getting to see what that was like. And then this guy was there, and he was hanging out with everybody. And then, like, an hour into the party, he picked up his organic chemistry book, and he was like, "Okay, bye guys, like, gotta go to the library now." And I remember that being kind of my introduction to Duke, and I was like, wow, it really is, like, students do everything here. It's work hard and it's play hard, and that really is true. Like, you're not going to have a bunch of free time, and you're not going to have as much free time as your friends that are at, like, less rigorous schools. I definitely, like, have a little bit of FOMO when I see my friends, like, being able to travel on the weekends and stuff like that. Like, maybe you won't be able to do that because you have more work, but you'll definitely still be able to have, like, a social life. I have friends who are pre-med who are in club sports. I have friends who are pre-med who are in Greek life and SLGs and clubs, and they work on campus too. So you have time.
As long as you're efficient with your time, I mean, you'll make time for what's important. So, I mean, it is good to make time for like a little bit of de-stress with your friends, and you can't be studying all the time, or you actually won't be doing so well. So as long as you keep up with your work and you're efficient, it'll be fine. So I think we will move on to questions about focus, because I feel like we are getting a lot of those. Julia Z and Ann H both asked focus questions. So do you need to apply for a focus program or be chosen, or is it a class you can just sign up for? So I think we'll talk about that. And then also Ann asks, do most people in focus pick a focus directly related to their intended major? I
mean, yeah, I can start on it. It was 3 years ago for me, but I remember that like I said, I was pre-vet, and I was like, I kind of want to take a course that's not just directly, like, pre-medical or anything like that, but it's also kind of something I'm interested in. And so I applied for, I actually got my second choice, but I ended up really, really liking it. And you do apply. I'm not sure if that's changed, Katie, but I applied. And I ended up in the cognitive science and geopolitics one, so I was taking neuroscience and human language, and I was taking Islam and orthodoxy, so very different things. And I had a really, really great time, and it had nothing to do with, I was a bio major at the time, and maybe neuroscience and human language kind of connected, but they really didn't have anything to do with it. So to answer that question, most people, if it's pick something that they're interested in, I think that's kind of the point of focus. So if your major is something you're really interested in, your focus program might match with that. But you might want to do something completely different, and that's totally fine because that's what it's for, and it looks really good on your resume and everything anyways. And also you get to go to dinners. I'm not sure how much you guys know about Focus, but I went to dinners at the Freeman Center every Monday, and the food was so good. The Freeman Center is the Center for Jewish Life on campus, and so we would go there, and usually it's like more expensive than the freshman dining plan, but because I was in Focus, we got to go, and it was the same price, I think.
Yeah, I went to the Freeman Center too. It was really good.
Oh, so good. It was so good. And the teachers are really cool, and you get to like have guest lectures. We had Steve Nowicki, who's the dean here, talk about bird songs. I'm not sure if we did that for you guys too, Katie. But yeah, just I would suggest I really wouldn't freak out too much unless you're in Pratt maybe, or if you like have a really strict pre-med plan about your first semester, like really fitting. And that's coming from just being in my last year.
I'll kind of touch on. You kind of covered Anne's question, I think, and I think that was Anne's question. But I'll go back to Julia's question, where we talk about kind of like the application process of Focus and what it kind of took to get into Focus. So right now I'm pulling up the website. The website is focus.duke.edu/apply is how to apply. And so basically, I don't know how well you can see it, but it lists out all the instructions on how to apply. And so this program, to sum it up, really, it's just kind of like a cluster on where you're focusing on a specific topic. There are a variety of topics. The 2015 topics range from like cognitive neuroscience and law, which is the one that I actually did, knowledge in service of society, power of language, visions of freedom. So they range from like kind of sciencey ones to some. This one's about ethics. Here's a genomes one and some global health and lots of different topics. And so, So in this, on this website, it'll tell you how to apply. You basically have to put your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and you'll kind of fill out like very short answer questions. And I know a lot of people, they definitely try to put as many people into their first choice as possible. I ended up in my first choice, but some people, even if they end up in their second or third choice, they end up really loving their Focus anyways. And so with the Focus program, you'll have 2 seminar courses, a weekly faculty / within your cluster, all the students' dinner. And so at that time, like usually they do presentations about like things that are related to your Focus and that kind of stuff. And also you will be living in the same dorm as your Focus, but not necessarily rooming with someone who's in the same Focus as you. And at first I found that really confusing. I wasn't sure what that really meant, but like I was thinking like, oh, well, I don't want everyone in my dorm to be the exact same Focus as me. But the dorms here, like I live in Randolph, which houses 180.
They haven't changed the dorm for that.
Oh, they haven't? Oh, okay. Yeah, so it houses like 180 students, and our Focus was about like maybe 30 35 or 36 students. So we're all scattered throughout Randolph, and we all are have roommates that are non-focus. So it's not like oh, you are bound by this program, but it's more like really nice actually, because whenever I had questions on homework or like, hey, do you want to study together for this test that's coming up, then we would, get together, and it would be really nice. And our focus director, Edna Andrews, actually like came to our dorm at least 3 times. Like, she came by a lot, and it was really nice of her to just like.
I don't know. Yeah, we went to her house and she made us cheesecake. I remember. So.
Oh gosh, I am. Okay, I should. All right, I'm back.
So I think, did we get the focus one? I think we got it. And there's like all the information's online too, and not everyone does focus, but I really liked it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what focus is. Once you apply, they should respond in an email relatively soon or relatively quickly, depending on at what point you apply, and then they'll let you know if you got into your first choice, second choice, whatever. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to skip over Steve's question, which just says swag, and I'm going to move on to Cameron's question, which says, much of this chat sounds like compromise in terms of learning. The system sounds inflexible, incredibly tough to freely follow any degree without getting stuck doing prereqs or fighting for a wanted class. Is Duke truly so restrictive? So I really appreciate that, that question, Cameron, because some people probably are thinking that. And I actually found much the opposite. As far as a compromise in terms of learning, I think if anything, Duke focuses a lot on liberal arts and theory and like big ideas and like pushing you to think outside the box instead of focusing on restrictive things. So like I have friends at other schools who are doing a lot of vocational stuff. So they're learning like really hard skills maybe as far as like journalism major, for example. It's really, really strict, and they have to take like this comm class and this comm class, and they learn how to write press releases this way. Whereas at Duke, it was more, all right, these are all these different topics in journalism. Like, let's talk about Edward Snowden. Let's talk about digital writing. Like, and it's kind of, it's much more flexible. And then as far as getting stuck doing prereqs, everyone has to take prereqs, especially I'm assuming you're talking about maybe pre-med or Pratt or something. Those are slightly more restrictive. So maybe that's what you were hearing. You do have to take like certain math classes. You do have to take certain science classes, but and I think you guys might be able to answer this a little bit more. I know you're still early on, but you do have some choice later. I think pretty much at any school, your first couple of years, you kind of have to take certain classes. I mean, you're all taking the same MCAT or the same test for professional school afterwards, and so you need to know certain things. But you have choices, like I have pre-med friends, I said this earlier, who took art history classes, or like Tondot's taking poetry classes, and that's totally something you can do. Also, as far as fighting for a wanted class, I think I've only had one time, so I'm a senior and I've been through registration like, I guess 8 times now. I've never had to fight for a wanted class, ever. I've only not gotten the class I wanted once, and I still really like the class that I had to take instead. So I know that that's a big difference. At least for me, I was looking at UC schools. I don't know if any of you are out there. I know it's a little bit harder to get the classes you want. A lot of my friends are graduating in 5 years because it's just, if you're in a popular major, it's really hard to get the classes you want. And at Duke, I've not found that to be the case. And this is my last semester, so I'm coming from a place of kind of having been here and seen this kind of happen.
Right. And I think I can speak to that a little bit too, just personal experience. I came in, I was a biology major, so set on doing bio, and then, oh, I like culture anthropology, so I'll take a couple culture anthropology classes, and so I switched my major to culture anthropology, and then later I was like, oh, psychology is kind of cool, so I'll study psychology, and so I took a psychology class and got a little bit into that, and then after taking that and then taking a couple of global health classes, I kind of like zoned in or honed in on what I wanted as my major, and so now I'm a global health and psychology major after coming in as bio and then changing to culture anthropology and then to psychology and then global health later. So I think Duke does classes outside of your discipline and trying to figure out what you want to study before you are set on your track. But once you again you choose your major, there is going to be a little bit of or there are going to be some requirements that you do need to fulfill just to get that done. But I think that's about as much time as we have. So thanks you guys for joining. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all the questions. Learned a little bit, and come join us.
Yeah, we're really excited about Blue Devil Days.
Yeah, for sure. We're looking forward to seeing all of you guys. Again, congrats on getting in. If you guys want to continue kind of seeing what Duke students are up to, we have an Instagram at Duke Students, our Tumblr, where we kind of blog about our experiences, and I think we just made a Snapchat. So
yeah, our Snapchat's really fun. Make sure that you watch Duke, guys, this weekend.
Yeah, so there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to be at the game, so look for me on TV. And thanks to Duke, actually, just a fun little plug. Duke actually, we had a lottery, so we all got to go and put our names in, and I won tickets to go to the game. So just another perk coming to Duke. And also, if you come to Blue Devil Days, I know we didn't get to a lot of the questions, but current students can answer pretty much all of these. So come and talk to them and meet them.
Yep. Yeah. So really great talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
We'll see you later.
See you guys next year.
Bye.